Alrighty, welcome back. We're looking at the Forgotten Battles, so let's get after it. In my video that I did previously, sort of doing shrink grip and all the rest of it, I referenced a number of different elements that were sort of, I think the catalyst for them came out of Third Winter. Not necessarily 100% certain that was the first module. It could have been Hungarian Rhapsody, perhaps, that catered to that. But one of the core new principles was this concept of fronts and army level command counters, and then regrouping offensives so that you would have one section of the map or maps active at a time. And then also I mentioned in the prior video, there were a number of new, I'll call them narrative enhancers or flavor enhancers added to the game, with partisans and tank busting aircraft and some other little bits and pieces that, while nominal in terms of rule impact, they will probably have a significant addition of, I guess, historical flavor. Yeah, a little bit extra overhead to manage, but nothing too outrageous or egregious. There's also for the Axis, there are a number of different little bits and pieces. There are some river flotillas. They handle the Hungarian army, have some restrictions. There's some different construction units, and these unique Sturm Panzer companies and stuff like that. So we're getting down into company level things. They handle the alert pools quite differently now. A lot more nuance in those, with a sort of wider. There's both infantry and armor/mech alert units. There are garrison units and fortress units now for the Germans, or the Axis as well. So lots of little different things. And I mention all that just as a recap, because you're not going to see any of that here. Unfortunately, this scenario I picked, I think it's scenario 3 or is it 4? I'd have to check. Let me check here real quick. It's here somewhere. Yeah, scenario 3, the Winter Siege, kicks off 15th of December 43, runs through to 1 Jan. So simple 6-turn scenario. One thing I've noticed, just as a side note, and also before I get there, also you can probably see we've got boundaries for gameplay area and all that sort of fun stuff as well. So a tight, compact little bit of action, very similar to one of the scenarios I played out of Third Winter, to get my feet wet with that particular game. I have yet to put both of them together and play a campaign or anything like that. I am a little wary at the moment, just because of this reason, which I will now attempt to explain. As you can probably see, we have lovely conga lines of offense and defense. These are all actually Axis units, all the hedgehog counters. It's kind of a shame that there aren't gray hedgehog counters. I know there'd probably be another half a sheet or something like that, but it would have been nice to have these be gray, just as a nice aesthetic, number one, and ease of recognition, number two. Because if I go and build a defensive position here, I'm going to have to do a pickup and look just to make sure that it is either a German unit or a Russian unit. Yeah. Anyway, this whole conga line thing and this massive density of counters, I don't seem to recall that being a big issue when I was playing Guderian's Blitzkrieg 2 and Case Blue together. I just don't recall that. I don't recall the lines being as long and dense as this. And I've seen some other playtest games where this offensive line is not 2 hexes deep; it's 3 or 4 hexes deep of just masses of units and all this other artillery backing things up and guys in reserve and the whole shoot match, which is fabulous if you get a breakthrough. But I don't know, and I'm not sure. I have the the level of interest I did have in a monster game that's going to be, let's call it I guess it's going to be 8 maps wide. 8 maps laid out, I'll call this horizontal, and then stacked 8 high. Yeah, with this level of density, I think perhaps in the early war in the Eastern Front, there were there's units, number one, and I think that may have influenced and been more significant to the gameplay. Perhaps it allowed more breakthrough penetrations and wider breakthroughs and whatnot. I don't know. I don't know where my head's at. I recall loving the Blitzkrieg Legend just because it was so dynamic and didn't get really bogged down and all that sort of fun stuff. And I think that's why I like DAC so much as well, because it's so cut and thrust. It's pretty interesting. Whereas this starts to get very much, I see it and I immediately think, yeah, I'm doing World War I here. It's all very attritional in nature. And I'm going to guess that we are not going to be attacking all along this line because we're just not going to have the supply. I've got 5 SP here on the map at the moment. I ain't going to go very far. I've got to allocate the SP. I've got 3 SP for the Germans for the Axis, and we've got to allocate those. One little thing here you may notice just off at the bottom of the screen here, I've got some guys that are set up off map, what would technically be off map. And I think, I've mentioned this to Chip, and he's confirmed back to me that 16 inclusive, so this is 15, 16, 17, right? 16 inclusive is the edge of the map, but there are setup instructions for 15. There are both Soviet and Axis units that set up in 15. 1, 2, 3. It's only 3 hexes, so it's not a huge deal, and I'm not fussed about it. That's kind of the edge of our maneuver area. It is what it is, so it's all good, but it's a thing. Whatever. All right, so this scenario, very straightforward, 6 turns. Somewhere in here is Verdebesk, here, right here. So we've got 6 turns as the Russians to powerhouse in. It looks like the Germans have been busy building hedgehogs and whatnot over the prior period. So we've got stuff to fall back on. The Soviets have the initiative to get started with. We've got a couple of interesting formations to play with. The 5-tank core here, and there's another one down here somewhere. Now I can't find it. Second guard tank right here. That's a big formation as well. The weather is freeze. I've got to recheck the terrain chart to make sure that means that we're not going to get river or river benefits. And I've got to also double check what that does to marsh terrain, whether that has any deleterious effects for defender and attacker. I started popping down as I set up the Germans. I started popping out some reserve markers where I thought I might want them or need them. I have not done all of them. I've got 3 left, I think. Yeah, I've got 3 reserve markers here. I'll need to do the same for the Soviets as well. There are some, based on my rough look at the map. Now, I also know, you're not supposed to put your strongest unit on the top and all this sort of business. I'm playing solo, so I'm going to give myself as much opportunity to make my game go as quickly as I can by having the best units on top, and HQs obviously go on top anyway, but just so I can not have to fiddle around and look for things, right? We don't want to be wasting time messing with that. It's interesting that there's no hedgehogs here at all, so I guess this will be a focal area of the offense, and there's a road right here to Verdebesk leading in, so we're going to probably attack these 2 hexes here. I don't know that we're going to get the opportunity to do any end-arounding because of the map edge. So it's funny that this is the primary objective, in fact, the only objective in this scenario, yet we have we have no maneuver room to the south, and we have a lot of forces up here. So I think another option also is going to be taking first tank that's all the way up here and trying to press through on this double rail line here and look to get to Polotsk. I'll get there. This guy. And look to try and cut supply. That would be fun. We should be looking to do that. There's an extender just sitting here for the Germans for no reason yet that I've worked out. I haven't really thought about it, but it's just there. I thought it was a mistake, but it's not. And there's probably somewhere up around here, I'm probably going to need one reserve marker up there for them, and for sure probably here. And then we're going to keep one for, yeah, I bet you these guys here, is that 6th Panzer? 20th Panzer. All right, I just buggered all those guys up. Yeah, very delicate, very delicate. All right, so that's kind of, and for the Germans, I want to get as many of these guys out of this little pocket that's evolving here and dump them down in and around the Vitebsk location. We might try and make some spoiling attacks in here. These guys are not super strong. So, well, that guy's 13, but he might be a bit of a problem. But he does only have a 3 rated AR action rating. So we might better pile on that little chappy. We'll see, just to see if we can force a retreat there and pick up a little bit of playing space and buy ourselves a little time. And then really the goal here will be to try and get as much of this down here as we can, stacked in around here, so that they're 2 or 3 hexes deep, and the Russians give up. This scenario is at the tail end of the Russian, the Soviet push. These guys, the Russians, are sort of exhausted, basically. There's a lot of units in here that have 1 or 2 steps taken off their counters. So it's kind of an interesting matchup where the Soviets are exhausted, the Germans are on the back foot, and we'll kind of see what happens from there. I'm going to try and just turn the camera on for the next video and play, and whatever happens, happens, with no edits or anything like that. And if we make mistakes, it is what it is. If you see mistakes, you can let me know, and if it's in time, within a reasonable amount of time, and I can fix it, we'll fix it. But otherwise, we're just going to play through, and I'll try and play a full turn, and then we'll pause there, and then we'll play another full turn and another video, and go from there. So OCS, the Forgotten Battles, 1943 to, well, it doesn't matter what the period is, but anyway, it's basically Army Group Center and South. From what I can gather here anyway. All right. Mainly Army Group Center, I think. Well, actually, you know what? It's actually Army Group North. Parts of Army Group North, too. Let me just double check that before you... Army Group Center. It is just Army Group Center, but there is an Army Group North counter, and that's when you combine it with other modules. All right. Got to go. Talk to you soon.